Those of you who are guests, by the way, my name is Michael Mirdad, and I serve here as part of our spiritual leadership. Our ritual each Sunday is to ask what's on people's minds and hearts, what's heavy on their hearts or what's joyously in their hearts. What do you want me to talk about today?
Visits from the other side.
Visits?
Yes, loved ones.
Family.
Honoring our values.
Trust. Illusion.
Virtue.
What?
Virtue. Acceptance. Allowing.
Okay, that's good. All right, we'll tie those together and address those as best we can. The topics for the people online included a variety of things, as always: visits from the other side, family, trust, illusion, virtue, job and purpose, allowing, acceptance, and a few others. And what is impossible for man is possible for God, meaning that even talks like that, to weave these kinds of things together, it's an extraordinary, miraculous thing that I do. No. Of myself, I am nothing. So keep that in mind for any of us. You see a job you have to do, a landscape job, designing a new dress, or whatever we do in life. I mean, the sooner we get over being marveled by ourselves, the better. The sooner that a person can set aside their talent, their experience, their gifts, and just say, what's the point? Doesn't matter. I am as God created me. Then it rises to another level. You know, I mean, it's not false humility. It's right and true that we are only as great as we allow God to be in and through us. You know, and we think, you know, wow, I wish I were more mystical. I wish I were more spiritual and perfect. A day at a time, man. You know, a day at a time is a common saying in recovery. But everybody's supposed to be in recovery. 12 steps from planet Earth. That's like the ultimate 12-step program. This place is messed up, man. It's an addiction. Well, why do you say that? Because you keep coming back like any other addiction, right? Couple times it was a habit. Now it's an addiction. So, you know, like, just accept it. You know, and some people don't like the way I talk, you know, and that I'm silly like that or irreverent in some ways. Well, you know, go somewhere else. Like, was it going to break my heart? I don't care. I honestly don't. Not because I don't love you all. And so it's just that this is what I do. It's plug in. And God itself doesn't mind that you or I are sometimes irreverent. Here's an example. Saint Teresa of Avila. Some people, oh, I really honor her. Mother Mary, people like that, you know, Jesus or whatever, you know, but Saint John of the Cross. Saint Teresa, you know, like mystic, she devoted to God, she's so sweet. And no, sometimes she was frustrated too. It's okay to look at stuff in your life, like, you know, you're asking about, whether it's frustrations of job and purpose or whatever, losing loved ones. To be able to be honest about it, be transparent, be vulnerable, but remember to follow it up with apology and amends. Not so much to God, but to anybody you dump stuff, frustrations onto. But Saint Teresa, one of my favorite things, man, you know, is that, you know, she's renowned for having gone through the dark night of the soul and taught about it. You know, like, you're a mystic. Isn't everything supposed to be going great? Now that you've been doing A Course in Miracles for like 8 days, shouldn't everything be perfect? You know, now that you practiced forgiveness for a week and a half, isn't everything? No, you're here. Stuff's going to happen. And Jesus assures you stuff is going to happen in this world. But don't take it too personally, because it's this world. And don't take it too seriously, because life is a joke. You are part of God, and that cannot change. But you think it did, and because you think it did, it hurts. And because it hurts, you take it personally. And because you're taking it personally, you take it seriously. And once you take it seriously, it starts another cycle of the same thing. So St. Teresa, in one of her moments, like, God love you, singing chants in her nunnery, Jesus is just all right with me. Jesus is just all right. Oh, yeah, right. That's what she spent her hours doing. No, one of her statements, she said, frustrated. If this is how you treat your friends, it's no wonder you have so few. To God, it's no wonder you have such few. Like, now, did God oh man, I'm going to get you for that? No, God would have been like, oh, that's a good one. I got to remember that one. Why? When they say, blasphemy, it isn't God takes it personally. Thou shalt not take the Lord thy God's name in vain. It isn't like God gets upset because you used God's name in vain. They're words, they're illusions. They're just more things of this world. So God doesn't punish us as we were told. But God does understand you're hurt. How could you not be hurt if you're not in God's presence and right now you think you're not in God's presence? I get it. So God's like, I get it. Would you like a solution? No, we just want distractions. We just want to be distracted from feeling what we're feeling, which is the premise, the foundation of addiction. Every addiction, not just drugs and alcohol. I'm talking about codependence and whatever else. Even the addiction of incarnating. So how do we break free? Well, God's going, do you want a solution? Ego says, do you want a distraction? Solutions over here, distractions over here. Distractions are quick, by the way. The salesman. If I were you, distraction is quick. It quickly places responsibility on others, and you'll get quick solutions, meaning stimulation and so on, codependence or drinking or whatever it is. That distractions are quick. They won't work forever, which is why you'll need a second dose of it, which is addiction. Where the other is a solution. Problem is, you're not going to like solutions. We won't? No, I promise you. And I've always been there for you, the ego says. The ego that convinced us to leave heaven and come here. So the ego is saying, no, it's really a good idea. Just stay away from this. We never stay with it long enough to say why. Why is distraction more attractive than solution? All right, you're pushing the envelope a little, but I'll give you some answers. The ego would say, because it can't really answer because then you won't choose it. So it gives you all kinds of sales jargon to get you back over to distraction. It doesn't say this one will be forever, this one's quick fix, and it'll go away a day later. Can't say that. It has to say this will be painful. This is going to mean you looking at yourself, which is true. It tells you the truths that it thinks are going to scare you. But what it doesn't do is finish the sentences. That's why A Course in Miracles says the ego can be very rational, but very logical, but never rational. It'll always give you these part sentences, just enough to get you convinced to go over here. But it doesn't give you rational, like conclusions. This is going to be scary, but you'll find that the fear is unfounded. This is going to be painful, but only because you're attached to the opposite. See, it doesn't finish the sentences. So we've got ourselves into quite a mess. And when we are looking for solutions, whether it's even concept of job and purpose or family, and let me say something real quick on this. I want to thank everybody on this planet and that's watching this program live or in person. Guys, any of you who have ever been able to be courageous enough to say no to garbage, I'm thanking you. If you ever said no to people who shamed you for choosing a job that didn't pay enough money, but you loved the job. See, I've been there. when I was a kid. Any of you who said no to family, if you said no to friends that wanted you to continue getting stoned with them, and you said, it's just not my thing. You went through the peer pressure and you hung in there. That said no to marriages that weren't real. That said no to whatever forms of addiction. And everything on this planet is a form of addiction to some degree or another. Because this is our place of coping. This is our mental hospital, the universal mental hospital. So everybody's medicated by the doctors who deem us as sick. But it's a mental issue. It's a thinking problem, not a drinking problem. It's a mind issue. We believe, we're fantasizing that we're separate from God, but we're not. So when you say no to the straitjacket, which is a drink, congrats. When you said no to people that shamed you for going, I might be gay. Oh, nobody in our family is gay. Oh, no, it's against our religion, or whatever it is. God bless you, man. Because you weren't saying no to just a thing. You were saying no to a concept that you had no power and that you had no right to choose differently. Soak that in, please. Anytime, and give yourself that feeling of, you didn't just do it. You should be saying thank you to you. Nice job. You didn't just get by. My parents wanted me to go and become whatever, a legal accountant. But what I wanted to do was be a florist. I'm glad you were a florist. That's when you ask about job and purpose. When I was a kid, I was offered jobs that were big money, especially at that time. $20 an hour, let's say, which is like $8,000 an hour today, okay? But it's like, what's wrong with you? Why would you, come on, this is what men are supposed to do. What guys are, all that pressure. And all I knew was that doing the jobs they wanted me to do terrified me. It gave me anxiety. But when I thought about being a teacher's assistant in an elementary school, I looked forward to going every day. Every day. The kids would see me and they'd come running up. This whole playground of kids. Mr. Mike! They all would run over, and I accepted that was my name. All of them. Every color, every religious background, and there was just love. And we had this thing. I would pin my arms to a wall and another wall, and they would see how many of them could hang from my arms. It's just, there's just more into jumping up. Me, and they're all got like 8 on this arm and 6 on this arm. And they're, what is that? Did I have to go to college for that? No. Children's Playfulness 101. No. These things all you do is you tune into who you're dealing with. And you know what they want and need. A great musician should know what they want and need. A good parent, a good counselor, what they want and need. But not in sacrifice or in lieu of your own sanity and happiness. God is encouraging us, find what's called win-win scenarios. Find ways to bring each other home. Instead of, I'm going to bring you home, but I guess I'm not allowed. Or I'm sticking to my own desires and I don't care about other people. Too extreme. Instead, what about everybody? And this world has taught us that there's no such thing as win-win scenarios. It's really breeds this into our mind. It's called survival of the fittest instead of win-win. But God cannot survival of the fittest, everybody. God's saying, you don't understand, you're one. So every time you find a win-win, you're coming home to another degree. But the world's going, there's no such thing. So this world is telling us everything that's not true. How can you find God while survival of the fittest? Which means one of us is, going to survive this and one of us isn't. Instead of we're in this together. How can I be helpful today? Well, you can't be because, you have your own needs. No, I'll take care of me. How can I be helpful today? So it's a completely different way of thinking. So even the person who's asking about family or asking about job and things like that, remember, it's like, God, what would you have me do? And It doesn't mean, win-win, mind you, tells us that it doesn't mean you can't have a soul's purpose job and be paid well. But I still kept other jobs for, 10 years before this was all I did to make a living. Now, I'm not going to give you this speech, you have to earn it. You have to do jobs you hate for 10 years before you can finally do what you love. No, if I took 10 years, you should only take 5. And the people you teach should only take 2.5. You get what I'm saying there? We pass down that wisdom. I took 10. I was still teaching during that 10, but took 10 to only teach and make a living and not have to do other side jobs. But it took me 10 years. You know why? Because I was breaking down the program that it's not allowed at all. So I had to break that one and did it in record time in some standards. 10 years was like nothing compared to never. Now you hear this and you can say, and you start downloading what I just said. And you should be able to filter it, turn it around, and bring it back 5 years for yourselves. And the people you teach, 2.5, and then they teach in a year. And then one day you're not born doing something you don't want, having to earn the opposite. In this world, there's something, it sounds like a strong term to be using, but in this world, there's something we would call false idols. And concepts are false idols, but we actually think we're more evolved. Remember the days, golden calves and things, God, so we were worshiping a bull, to some sort of metal bull. And now it's just mental bull. I don't know. But can you imagine that somebody sat there and said, shh, shh, I think the bull's talking to us. It's just sitting there, but somebody, shh, wait. The brass bull, the gold bull, or whatever it was made out of at the time, is talking. Like, move north. We will get the tribe to move north because the metal cow, bull, whatever, told us to. And there are still people doing these things, but we think we're more evolved now that we're not silly like that, Do you know it's just as silly to go and God's going to punish you for such and such? It's all superstitious. Who made the superstitious gods and goddesses? Who decided the gods of Olympus are upset? Right? Who decided that? Was that God the Almighty? No, that's the ego. Better be careful. No, but the good news is it did keep us in line a little. Some of the great historian Jews speak about the commandments and they say, you know what? They're being very honest and they say, you know what? The commandments were necessary because our tribes were out of line. We needed some discipline. Why the teachings of Muhammad so sometimes seemingly so harsh? Because the tribes were so out of line. He had to try to turn these people around that were lawless. So he had to have backbone. He couldn't sit and just go, beloveds. They're like, done, one word, gone. Beloved, what is this guy about? We'll show you, beloved. He had to have backbone so they would go, we respect this guy. He has, we're crazy. We're like lawless, and this guy's not afraid of us. He must be plugged in. You get what I'm saying there? But that's what you have to say to addiction and family members. You can't do but we don't approve of the guy you're marrying, the girl you're marrying. We want you to marry one from our selection, like your cousin, or whatever. We want you to let us select. And when you say no, it's fantastic because you're saying no to all of the superstitious garbage. Superstition including, my mom will be upset with me. What you just said was, I've made my mother a god that I kneel and worship. And when I say no to her, you know what's going to happen? The gods and goddesses of Olympus are going to just thunder lightning bolts. That just means a phone call from your mother. Now the lightning bolts are just electricity running through the phone lines or whatever you use, right? Just say no. And there you might hear thundering, and you might feel a shiver. Oh God, just breathe through it. Breathe through it, because I would rather that God strike me dead than to worship my mother. Because if the gods strike me dead, I walk to the other side and they go, we're going to make you into a god since you stood by your standards, your own integrity. You listen to your heart. Humans are the ones that live under superstition. So it's okay. Say no. And fearfully, the way they lived, worshiping false idols. But we're doing it today. But what's weird is that human beings think they no longer are so superstitious as to believe in the gods of Olympus. And yet they still live fearfully. So something's wrong. It's because they've replaced golden calves and so on, like I said, the bulls to worship, with mental bull. You're worshiping your mother when you let her tell you what to do. You're worshiping your dollars when you live in fear about money. I'm not saying don't be practical and take care of yourself. I'm just saying the human beings, we still have this superstitious stuff. If I do this, I know something bad's going to happen. If I divorce, and people say this all the time, if I divorce, Michael, you don't get it. I don't have a way to make a living. If you actually know what you're doing, this is important. Doing needs to come from being. And humans don't do that. Humans are lacking being, so they have to compensate through doing, which is ritual to a false god. The false god being the throne of God, which should have been sat in by me, is empty. And so I put my mother and anybody else that will make me feel better today. Because that's what you want. You want to worship God and please God. Superstitious version of God. That's not what God's asking. God's asking you to step up and be as God. And when you don't know who you are, you can't make healthy decisions. Oh my God, every day. Private sessions that are calling and coming from a place of compensating, the hyperactive doing. And I feel for them, and of course I counsel them accordingly. But still, you can counsel people on doing, and all you're doing is still swinging the pendulum, compensating. Remind each other in this world how to find who we are before we know what to do. So who am I will start to help me determine what it is I do. When you know who you are, the rest of itself. Jobs are opening. I'm going to get a job. I think what I'll do, because I'm totally a creative person, is get down whatever road you took, it's the wrong road. Because you didn't show up to determine which road. If there's a line that says right brain or left brain, if there's a line that says, the place. When I got out of high school and was getting out of Michael, what do you want to do? Court counselor. I felt bad for them. They're like, okay, next, okay, Michael, so nice to see you. It's Michael, oh God. But Michael, what do you want to do? And you got to try, you want to do this, you want to do, this and that. This will be 6 years of college. I couldn't picture doing any of the things they were telling me to do. Right? None of it fit. And they were getting the clue, like, yeah, this isn't going well. So there was a point where, well, Michael, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know. But wait, because I know me, even then. All I know is I want to help people. They said, I'm not a leader. Really? That means you're going to be a social worker, because those are helpful, a doctor, and nurse. Yeah, that's me. A doctor. You know, could you picture this? You're not sick. That's all. Just not going to go well, right? Social worker, you know, leave him. You know, instead of you're not supposed to give advice, just keep enabling everybody's problems. No, I'd be like, leave him. You know, chapter 1 in my book on social work, dump the chump. You know, like move, man. Come on. No abuse allowed. I was sitting in a restaurant once in Ashland, Oregon, many years ago, and there was this really heavy duty thing going on with this family. 2 or 3 little ones, and this woman, the mom, and the guy, whether he was a stepdad or a, you know, whatever, the real dad, I don't know. But his level of intensity and rudeness and aggression on the kids, you know, I'm not going to feed you if you guys don't do this. And just, it was intense. And I was sitting there just in the next booth like, wow, you know, just what would you have me do? And I wait, you know. Finally, he said, that's it. You guys aren't eating today. Gets them up and starts leaving them. He walks by. The kids are following him. She's the last one. She looks, and I looked at her. I said, leave him. Yeah. Yeah. Do I care? He could have picked up a fork and gone after me. I'll die happily knowing that I told her to leave you. This is the right thing to do. What you're doing is not God. What you're doing is not love. Does it feel like love? Check in. I don't think so. You know, come on. They can't grow up like this in this kind of thing. But we have to make a difference in this world, and sometimes it's saying no. And that's why I said congrats to all of you. Don't underestimate the divinity that came through you when you made those kinds of decisions. That's enough. No more addiction. See, things start off a little bit like we feel empty inside. And then the emptiness needs to be medicated by some kind of thing. The thing could start off looking like kind of like a little bit of a habit, just to kind of compensate. But that habit's going to become an attachment to your distraction, which is going to become what? An addiction. What's going to come after addiction? You just wait. You just wait. Even if you think your addiction's mild and it's only you, nobody else knows. Oh no, wait till somebody takes it from you. Addiction will become violence. Addiction will become abusiveness. You're not just kind of safe in your own addiction. It doesn't work that way. You're going to be abusing yourself or someone else with the addiction. What starts as a, habit or a bit of, attachment, it's going to end up addiction, and addiction's going to become eventually aggression, violence, because somebody dared to take something from you. That's why people that are like, oh, I love you too, oh, I love you too, on and on and on, no, you hang up, no, you hang up, no, you hang up. This little, God, I love you so much that I'm not going to hang up, and I'm going to prove I love you more because I'm going to be the last one to hang up. Oh, my God. It's just intravenous heroin conversations. That's all it is. It's distraction, and it's like, here's what happens. You hang up, no, you hang up, you click. You jerk, you hung up. It's going to happen. Eventually, when the addiction is exposed, everybody's going to go to hell. They're taking you down with them. You hung up first. Well, I thought we were done talking. Oh, you knew I wasn't done talking. It's like sorry guys, it's just, you asked about family or relationship. Sorry. But at the end of the day, it's cute and it's fun. And all of that could also be symptoms of real love. Symptoms. Don't get attached to the symptoms. Always get back to the real love. And when you want to live without superstitious false idols, I'm loved because, whatever it happens to be. I made a motion picture movie. Everybody loved me as a director, but the next film, the next one, and the next one, they panned it. They didn't like me, so they don't love me anymore, and now I get depression. When you know who you are, it doesn't matter. When you did the movie, it was you authentically channeling through, and then it's done. Everything's perfect. There's no retributions. There's no crashing because there's no gods of Olympus coming to get you. When Martin Luther Jr., when he's saying we've got to change things, and then he's getting these death threats, if death threats could have made him stop, then it wasn't authentic, whatever he was doing. He's saying basically, my interpretation, this isn't something I'm doing, it's what I am. I can't not do this. It's not like, well, you're right, I should stop because that was just a mood I was in for a couple of years. Really, is that all it was? Just I was in a mood? No, this is who I am. And I quoted, Thomas Paine, I think a week or two ago. The world is my country, and to do good is my religion. See, he's saying this is me. To do good is not this is what I'm told to do. Even the concept of good karma is a superstition, or bad karma is a superstition. Live as who you are. Be true to yourself. Be more transparent. That doesn't mean bleed transparency onto people that are nauseous at the sight of blood. That's a metaphor. But it means to be true to yourself. And that, I never walked into my family's house and said, listen, I've got something to say. And I have, lots of students who support me in this, and they outnumber y'all. So I'm right in saying that you folks are messed up. I just, I just smile. But if there was harm, I wasn't going to enable it. I was not going to ignore, and enable. Just like that couple in that restaurant. There were times I looked at my mom and said, leave him. Michael, you don't know what you're saying. You're not so, our religion says no divorce. I said, you're right. I was just crazy for a minute there. Sorry, I thought you might have wanted to be happy. I don't know. Call me silly. Call me presumptuous, but, right? So I never intruded on them, but I am who I am. And there were moments when I got up and left. Right? It's just because this is what's true. Just the truth. Let it percolate up and live by that. But be transparent. Who are you? How can you be transparent if you don't know who you are? It's got to come back to who are you? And you just come down to, when I really think about it, it doesn't make sense because when I say who am I, words like color come into my head. That's not an identity. No, but it's a symbol of something. Keep going. Color. Swirls of color. Keep going. Movement. Keep going. Freedom. See, keep going. And your identity is coming out. Free expression. Oh my God. I always wanted to paint. There you go. There you are. You're an artist. Come out. Come out. Wherever you are. Paint. But I don't know how. That's the head. That's the ego going, don't you dare become what you are. Sing. Move. Feel. Let something come through you. And it doesn't matter if I thought, here comes an artist. I can feel an artist coming through me. So I took up painting, and I really, really wasn't good at it. But it led me to sculpting. Or sculpting led me to being a sound healer, however that bridge would have happened. See, something can lead to something else. When I was wanting to be and enjoying being an assistant teacher in an elementary school, if you think about it, well, where's the leap from that to spiritual teacher? Both have to do with teaching. Both have to do with inner children. Both have to do with innocence. Both have to do with enjoying what I'm doing. But you have to have the eyes to see those themes. The real us is waiting to come out. Do you think the ego is like, oh, look, spirits that have arrived on earth to discover their soul's purpose. I guess I'll just wait over here until they don't want to do that anymore and then punish them. No. Saint Irenaeus, or Irenaeus, different pronunciations, but this one teacher from the past, Middle Ages, he said, the greatest glory for a human to express God is to be God uninhibited. The greatest thing, the greatest joy you can give God is to be yourself uninhibited. Like, come out. In contrast to Frozen. Remember, we've talked about that, Dante's Divine Comedy, that in hell, those who were in the deepest rung of hell were in a lake where their body parts were frozen. Whatever part of them was frozen mentally was frozen in this lake. Your legs, your arms, your heart, your head, your neck, your throat center, your genitals, or whatever. Frozen because they're unredeemed. They're unhealed. I just remembered right now when I said that the other day I had this dream vision that happened. And in it, the bit I can remember was, long story short, was there were these bad guys, so to speak. And the two of them, there were two, more of a father and a son, but the son was a young adult, but two figures. And they shot me in the head. They left, which symbolizes a major, something going on in consciousness. So they shot me, they left. And then there were people that cared gathering around feeling bad. And then they were coming back. And in the dream I was going, resurrect me, Father. I know you can do it. Even though an unhealable wound. Resurrect me, Father, now, before they come back. And he did. I resurrected. All of us have to resurrect from the wounds that people bring forward into our lives. Make sense? Resurrect me. I know you can. The impossible resurrected. And in the resurrection, one, the younger of the two, it was my choice and it becomes lucid. Do you want to get him back? And I looked at it and think, like logic, your head will do this. If I don't, he's going to do it again. So I have a decision to make. You and I have decisions to make. Do you succumb to what other people do to you and say to you, say about you? Do you succumb to it, or do you resurrect? And if you do resurrect, do you do it to show them a thing or two? I'm going to show my Father I can amount to something. Guys, even if you did, by that time he's dead anyway. And he's on the other side going, I root for you. You're not allowed to root for me. I'm doing this to spite you. And he's like, that's so silly. I'm on your side, son, daughter, It's not going to work out very well for you. Don't wait for others to support you. Know that the God in them already does. And if you don't believe that the God in them does, then you're focusing on that which is not God, which means it doesn't exist. So you're sitting there focusing on ghosts and phantoms. I can't really amount to much because the mom that I never had is still haunting me. It doesn't make sense. People will become more of who they are when you see it in them. Somebody has to see it in them. Jesus saying this to the centurions, Jesus saying this to St. Peter who betrays him. I got it. We're good. There's nobody, he said, now that went too far. The little spear in the side, I was willing to forgive you people until that. It doesn't mean you can't say no to the hurtful people. Nope, not going to happen. But you don't resent and you don't hold the resentment. You don't choose to see them as the bad guy, the continuing, that's them. That isn't the real them. That's what they did. when they didn't know who they were. And they did it to someone else who didn't know who they were. How do I know you didn't know who you were? Because you didn't say no. Or yes at the appropriate moments. All the world's a stage, and we're each playing parts. And everyone is watching you. I know it doesn't seem like it because you're not on stage at a podium. Everyone is watching you. When you're a woman who some guy cuts in line at a store, everybody's watching to see what women do. You're going to teach them what women, and women, the guy's bigger than her, so she backs off. You just programmed to them again, women are weak. When you saw a man choke up, but he didn't let himself feel the feelings, that's what men do. It's all programming. That's what all 5-year-olds do. That's what all boys do, girls do, men, old men, young men. They're all stories, and they keep getting re-verified and plugged in again and again based on what you and I do in life situations. And I'm saying everybody's watching you and learning from you. Let them see how you handle life, which isn't always easy. The St. John's and Teresa's and others, we call them saints, but what does it mean? They're symbols. They're just little neurons in your mind, in your brain that say, this is how that one neuron's going, I wouldn't do that if I were you. The other one's going, I hate everybody. I'm going to get back at all of them. And this one's going, yeah, but you could see peace instead of this, right? See, it's just this battle. The battle's an internal battle. The concept of jihad, the Muslim concept of a holy war, the same as Buddhists. You would not think, Islam and Buddhism are the same, but they are, in the sense that both are saying, you have a battle to fight. This is also Hindu. That's Krishna in the Gita. Jesus in A Course in Miracles, when he says the world is a battleground. Why do they always use that metaphor? Because they're saying you have a job to do, and it is to say no to the ego. The jihad is an inner battle. It was never about someone having a holy war from country to country. It was about you having inner battle with yourself, your ego self. Not to kill your ego self, that's old school terminology. It's that you retire it for lack of work. You let it know, I'm actually, let me check in, no, not interested in your opinions. Yeah, but no, volume down. Oh, volume up on angel sounds and peace, right? I mean, we'll start off with, don't say that to me. You'll start off with back off externally. It'll look like a battle. And that person, hey, back off, will become na. It'll downgrade to a little more passive ways of saying no. And then it'll be like no matter what they're saying, you're just unaffected. And believe it or not, the day will come when none of us will even manifest those voices. Because there's no purpose to it at all. No purpose to it at all. So it's like, well, this thing, this voice, which in Book of Revelation describes it gruesomely, but really what it's saying is it'll be cast into a pit eternally, meaning it's cast away. It's just, there's no interest in it. Revelation tells you when you get to this point, when you're really strong, it will try to rear its ugly head one more time. Hey, listen, I just wanted to change. No, all right. And it's gone. And as much as these examples and metaphors could sound colorful or whatever they might sound to you, it's important to remember we're talking about you and your day-to-day life. Stand for who you are and what's right. First, you'll fight for your right, but eventually the fight becomes just not interested in the opposite. And that's a little, challenging for some. There are some of you folks, that know that my style of that, like with meetings we sometimes have, it could sound like I'm really quite the strange person, and I am, but quite the strange person when I express I'm not actually interested in stuff, conversations about things. Let's just know who we are, make decisions on what most feels aligned with that, and go. Like, I just would so not be able to be in politics because it's founded on everybody arguing and finding differences. Even though spiritual teachers and teachings have told us, find commonality. Why? Because that's bridging. Because that's greater good. Because that's win-win scenarios. And yet the world doesn't seem to want to invite that. So, these concepts you probably have heard me say many times in many different ways. But this is especially based on your questions. I love this because of how practical it is. It really is. What's this really about? Know who you are and stick to that. But remember, vulnerability and transparency for dealing with any addiction. Who am I really? Well, when I look at myself really, oh my God, there's this holy me. I start the day communing with God, plugging in with God. I call it communing though. Communing with God, start the day with God. To have a God day. You want to have a good day, have a God day. Wake up on the right side of the bed and the right side of your head. Get in your right mind. Let's start the day with God. Now, I set that as my intention. Stuff's still going to happen. But when I'm really plugged into who I am, I notice there are certain kinds of things that I'm not interested in doing. Have you ever done that? Aren't there certain movies that don't fit when you're blissed out? Oh, Friday the 13th, part 8. I don't sit there going, oh, but I really want to watch Friday. I never have had that struggle. Gotta watch part 8. Because I don't know, this time the bad guy's really supposed to die. Really? Not if they can make a buck on it not happening. You seriously going to watch that? So, knowing who I am, but not just the intellectual knowing. I mean feeling. I feel plugged in. I feel very happy. And when I feel like that, even when I was raising kids, years ago, they were little ones or whatever, if I was blissed out, it changed how I would even deal with them doing something naughty. It was like, one of them did something naughty at school and the mother's like, I'll go get him, because I knew, I'm like, hey, I was like not in a failed parent state of mind. I wasn't in a scared state. I was like, okay, cool. And my kid called, well, we're in the principal's office, me and a few friends, and we did this, and, da-da-da. I said, okay, listen carefully. Watch for when I pull up. When I do, make a break for it. Run, you and your friends, run. I'll have the car door open. I said car door. I'm hiding. It was a minivan. All right. So I had the minivan door open, and she did. She's like, my dad said, just follow. He knows what he's doing, and it happened. And one of their moms was in the middle of a divorce, a very sudden, unexpected. She was in no state of mind. So I just knew that she was needing help. You follow? So I showed up doing something wrong illegally, which is taking children off property without, school property without permission. So I said, run. They all run. And while they're running across the little grassy area from the office to the van, I'm going, dun, 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 dun. And they all jump in, slam the door, taking certain turns so that the police won't know which road to look for us. I did, my kids have all been in therapy, by the way. But these are the kinds of things I did as a dad. But it was the right thing to do, and it was light. It was playful. It was bonding. I don't even remember if the school ever filed anything. I didn't care, I just knew that I knew my child, but I also knew that particularly this other child's mom, some very horrific things were discovered, and and she called and said, I heard, the kids have been called and, into the office. And I remember in her voice, I can't go, I can't. And I said, I got it. And then the good Lord spoke to me and told me exactly how to handle this. You know, and I enjoyed it too. I mean, I enjoyed it, I have to admit. So the ego is going to tell you to live superstitiously, but the ego is also telling you not to worry, but in a false way, which means be a good person or else became nothing matters because you know you've done naughty things. Were you struck by lightning? No. You know what? Because there's no God. Do whatever you want. So the ego created do nothing and then do everything, and it wins either way. So what do? Well, you pick a camp. This one's called Republican and that one's called Democrat. Pick a camp. See? It is. The vegans and the meat eaters or whatever, you know. You're picking these camps. No one camp can be right other than the center. Who are you and what's right for you? The Native Americans were meat eaters. Were they evil? Were they wrong for being? No. They did what they did as they knew it to be, and it was right for them, period. And I can't argue that. You can try, but I won't stay in the room and enjoy the conversation. I'm going to be gone. So God, what would you have me do? Starting every day with that. Plugging in. What would you have me do? What would you have me say? Where would you have me go? Etc. What would you not have me say? Just guide me. And when we allow that presence to fill our hearts, there's this vibe. And when you're in a state of happiness, you'll just find there's certain movies that just don't resonate with bliss. But there's some that do. Some that might resonate with bliss to me might not resonate with you. Stay true to yourself. Don't judge my movie, but I won't judge yours. See? Live and let live. Everybody at peace. Follow your bliss, as the saying goes. And it's very, very cool. People act like it's complicated. I wish I knew what God wanted me to do about this, whatever it is, job. And so they think, people love my counseling skills, my work as a healer and counselor. But it's because I'm just doing the same thing as here, channeling the truth. So when someone says, Michael, oh my God, I've spent the last 8 months waiting to get an appointment with you, and oh my God, and I need advice, what do I do? Well, I already know. What are you about? What do you ultimately want? Oh, I want to be peaceful and happy. Really? And you're asking me about that job or that relationship. All you have to do, take a few centering breaths, and then ask yourself, if I was filled with that peace and happiness, would I be in this relationship? And they often say, not at all. That'll be $100. How did you not know that? How did you not know that? Because it's not just like people are dumb. No, they're addicted. They're used to it. The habit became an addiction. The addiction became an abuse, and it was abuse to themselves. It's always going to go badly, man. You let those addictions get out of hand, they're going to go there, to a hurtful place. And so what you're hearing me do, in a sense, is, Michael, this session was so liberating, but I'm you, the part of you that says, I actually deserve to be happy. Now, if you think you deserve to be happy and your ex is the bad person, that's not true. You're judging someone. They were perfect for when you were insane. Because there was a part of you that, that was like, I have low self-esteem. I'm going to go to a low self-esteem dating site. That's what you did psychically when you attracted the nutty people. You psychically put it out there, low self-worth, and they're like, beep, 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 beep. I do. On the altar, I do. Wow. It's like a marriage made in hell. I loved the person I married years ago, and we split up eventually, but I loved the person as a person. But still, I was late to the wedding. I didn't remember. I woke up and we were decorating the cars. I forgot to comb my hair, showed up late, and then when we lit the candles up on the altar, the wax poured on my hand and I was like, up on the altar. What a scene that was. So all of this was just another humorous life experience, She didn't know what she was getting into either, So who are you, man? Who are you? Find that. And you might go, well, that's going to take a while. At least you can get on the road to it. It might sound like it's a lot of work, and it might be if you have a lot of resistance. But just relax, and who are you? I love. That's a feeling word. That's not your soul's purpose, but it is. Your highest feeling word, peace, love, joy, oneness, the highest feeling word is supposed to be the foundation underneath who you are, what you become, what you do, and what you don't do. That word's supposed to be your mantra, a word or two. Peace and happiness. Has anybody in this room, online as well, has anybody ever had a job that didn't resonate with peace and happiness? Almost everybody, right? What were we thinking? Have you ever dated anyone that didn't resonate with peace and happiness? Look, like everybody. Why? What were we thinking? Stop. There's your rules, remember. Be vulnerable. Yes, I have. I've done that. What's the next part and the closing to what I'm saying today? Apologize and make amends. You know what, Michael or whomever? Wow. Back when you forgot who you were and forgot what you really deserve based in God's perception of you, God's knowing of you, you really did attract some crazy things. Yes, I did. Wow. I mean, you did drugs that weren't good for you. You did this, you did that. Wow. Apologize and make amends. Okay, Michael, I'm really, really sorry that I took you down this route. In forgetting who I was, I became desperate and started doing compensatory things. Whatever it is, smoked this, drank that, and so on and so on. Now make amends. What is a making amends? What does that mean? I'm probably not going there again. What can I do to make it up to you? Not debt, guilt, Michael, or anyone else. I was just out of my mind. I was not aware of who I really was. So I took jobs that weren't okay. Michael, I'm so sorry about that. That's when I forgot who I was. And then I left you in that state. So come back with me. You're reintegrating the dismembered parts. You're remembering them. Bring them back together. Bring the little girl, the little boy back in, and so on. Bring them back in to a place of hopefulness. I'm here. I'm here now. Oh yeah, that's what we thought when you guided us through 10-year-old, 20-year-old, 15-year-old. You were the one who decided who we would date. And you totally messed us up. I'm sorry. And what can I do within reason to change that? Well, it's going to take us years to trust you again. So be it. I'm going to show you that I have such a level of integrity, I will earn your trust again. You say to yourself. That's making amends. And of course, making amends isn't just doing better. It's not doing the old. When you slip, catch yourself faster. Oops, sorry kids. Mommy lost it for a minute. I'm back. Yeah, we saw that. Wow, We have to breathe for a minute because you were like, oh, but he's cute. And we were like, no. Don't you remember? Oh, that's right. Okay. Not that inner child is wanting you to be miserable. It's not that. It's that you have to show them how to be joyous. Someone has to show up and be the healthy Christ presence. Someone has to show up and be the presence of God, the parent to the children. Make sense? All right. Please take a few centering breaths. Breathing for a moment, just soaking in what we heard that made the most sense. Those of you who asked specific questions, if you asked about trust, did you not hear me talk about trust? Soak in anything you heard me say about trust. You've got to earn your inner child's trust again because you acted untrustworthy. You asked about family. What did you hear? To thine own self be true. Those who do the will of God are my brothers and sisters. Everybody else is just biological temptations. They're just temporaries. One of you asked about virtue. That's a great one. What does that word mean? Look at how imagining virtue, how you sit up straighter because you're clear of who you are. To be virtuous means to stand in alignment with who you really are in God. Someone asked about acceptance. I have nothing to defend. I accept that at times I've made decisions during my moments of amnesia. If I was filled with amnesia, I couldn't have made real healthy choices. If I signed a contract to buy a car while I had amnesia, my case would be thrown out in my favor that I did not buy that car because I was struggling with amnesia. I did not know what I was doing. Jesus on the cross, forgive them, they know not what they do. When we act hurtfully towards ourselves or others, it's only calling for and worthy of forgiveness. I accept those moments when I came from amnesia, forgetfulness, to myself, to God, to the universe, to the children within. I love you. I'm so sorry. Thank you for forgiving me. I've made those mistakes. To deny them, to minimize them, it's just senseless. No rationalizing, just I'm so sorry to myself and anyone else that this may have affected. I am. That I am is my God right, the name of God in me. I am. So sorry for that. Compassion is speaking, not regret per se. I'm so sorry. That's not the relationship that I would have and God would have willed for you. That's not the job. That's not the health condition. That's not the karma. That's what comes from forgetfulness. If we forget our holiness, this is the direction things would go. And now I come to you, that is me, to God, to the universe, and I'm making amends. Show me what you would have me do to earn back, not with guilt and shame, to earn back myself. Lost pieces, dismembered parts, frozen bits, disassociated bits, addicts and addictions within me. This is going to feel like a struggle. As they say, it might hurt a bit, but I'm done with that. is enough. I'm committing to a new life. I'm committing to coming forward. I'm committing to bringing my real self forward. It's a day at a time program. I'm committing first apology and amends to clear out the old. Then I stand to be filled with the memory of who I am. What is it? Who is it? I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. Show me, God. Shine your holy presence, which is my holy presence as well, down into my heart. Illuminate the altar in my heart. Excite me. Inspire me. Show me that this is worth it. Then God and I in my heart will march down into the lower chakras, the chakras of thinking, emotions, and actions, and we will take it by storm in a good way. We will step in and say, this is the diet right for me. These are the right relationships for me. This is the right job for me. We will sweep in there. An unstoppable force of love, just shining light. Be still, old self, and know the I am presence of God. Fire from the heavens, raining down upon the altar in my heart, inspiring me to new actions, new thoughts, new beliefs, new decisions. It's about time. And so it is. How's that feel? Good. Good. There's nothing we can't do, guys. You know, we feel like, but we can't make changes. There's so many temptations that they're just distractions. Oscar Wilde said, I can resist everything except temptation. Which is perfect, which means nothing, you know? And that's right, you know, like the ego in this world, it's, you know, it's got an agenda to distract us from being who we are, from remembering who we are. So think about that. You're not just trying to get a little better life. That's not where we're going. This is complete contrast to who we really are, therefore what our life would really look like if we start living accordingly. So things are not going to just get a little better. There's no limit. It's unlimited because it's God. We're made in God's image. We're meant to thrive. We're meant to be at peace all the time. Not to have a good day once in a while, not to see a miracle once in a while, but just to live in the miraculous, the joy, the love, the oneness. Okay? That's not going to happen without the vulnerability of what doesn't feel connected, the willingness to apologize. That's the humility. You must be as children to enter the kingdom of heaven. Children meaning simple and humble. And that includes, I'm sorry. Then you're lifted. Stand and let's make a commitment to a new life that's called amends. You don't stay on your knees going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You just get that out of your system. Oops, to get to the humble state. Once you're humble enough to apologize, you're lifted enough to make amends and march forward. Okay? What did you hear or learn today that made the most sense? Yes.
You addressed my question and I didn't pose it.
I addressed the question you had in your mind, but you didn't say it.
The question I had in my mind, and I thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's okay to say no.
Right.
Or leave him.
Right.
It's okay to say this is not acceptable.
Right.
And then, but forgive. It's a sickness, it's an illness, like it is.
Right. Right.
So I really thank you.
You're welcome. The attachment, the involvement, the investment in an unhealthy job, relationship, or self, any of those. It's one thing to say leave, it's another to actually do it. Because people don't want to own how much addiction there is involved. You represent my not having to step up and change my life. I would if it weren't for them. Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yes?
Your vision about asking God to resurrect you
Yeah.
reminded me of a hike that I was on this week, and I stepped around a tree that had fallen, and I lost my balance, and I reached out to catch my balance, and both hands went onto something very sharp.
Oh.
And I looked at my hands, and I thought, what is this? What's happening? And what immediately came to me was Jesus on the cross. And I asked God to take my transgressions, to take my sins, and to resurrect me into something whole and complete.
Wow, very, very beautiful. So, she had fallen and hurt her hands, and then it kind of clicked, sort of a vision of Jesus and crucifixion and the wounds and moving on to being whole and complete. Very beautiful. Yes?
I have to say, this is so funny. Yesterday I was in Phoenix, and there was I spent about a half an hour in impossible traffic to go
Oh.
2 miles. Every friggin' 2 seconds I was at another red light, and I was so furious, and I was that little voice that you were talking about. This ego voice, is talking
Yeah.
to me, and I just felt like you had listened to my conversations.
Oh.
Honestly, 'cause you were, and it was just like
Yeah.
that, and I finally just said, I've had it. I know that it doesn't need to be this way. I just call upon you to be with me, and the rest of the ride, smooth.
Nice.
It was
City
amazing.
traffic that was driving her nuts, but a little prayer shifted all that. Yes.
What did the Cheshire Cat say again?
Cheshire Cat, what road should I take? Well, that depends where you want to go. It's paraphrasing this, but depends where you want to go. Well, she said, I don't know. Then he said, then it doesn't matter which road you take.
Okay, boy, have I done that. See what we find. And at the time, these seem like good decisions, and a lot of them, I run into some things where the problem is I didn't know who I was when I went there.
Mm.
I was saying, what the hell?
Yeah,
And man, it's
right. So you accessed your inner Alice. Yeah. Now that's an interesting piece because there's a paradox to that, and that is there are times when it's like you need to know where you're going to go to know which road to take. But what about this concept of waiting for inspiration and so on? See, well, that's also my intention. So I'm not just passively waiting. The people that say, oh man, I'm just being. You're just being annoying. Step up and do something. Who are you? So being passively waiting can still be, I know who I am, so it's still going to go in a good direction. But I stay open to what that is. It's not the same as I don't know. It's not a completely passive that's going to end up going badly and you'll not know who to blame for this. Like you said, many times you've gone through decisions and it didn't go so well. The more you know who you are, whether you know and go or whether you know and wait, you're still in the knowing who you are. So the universe is still going to say, this is a passionate leader or whatever, and You still wait for whatever, but it loads you up with whatever's relevant. I don't want to be loaded up with your stuff because I don't know who I am or what I'm doing. See, that's different. That's the dangerous passivity versus the empowered one. I know who I am, and God knows exactly what he's dealing with here. Right? Oh, that's Michael. Or whomever. So we got to keep it light, or we got whatever it is, that God sees for me, and it'll support that. But the universe is going to support your thoughts. And if you're just like, I don't know because I'm broken, I'm uncertain, I'm just waiting because that person may not like what I'm doing, and then I have to, then the universe just keeps, and so it is. A broken mind, more broken stuff. Anybody else from further back? Yes? Yes? Yes?
I love your false idol history lesson.
The false idol history lesson.
I can hear you channeling because it's Michael. Metal bull, mental bull as a false idol.
Metal bull, mental bull.
Great
Yeah.
not to keep it.
Yeah, that was a new one. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's right. You can just tell. Yes, dear.
Well, just the way your meditation just crystallized all of those words. Be still, my old self.
Be still, my old self in the meditation.
There's such kindness there in that statement.
Right.
And such assurance. And the only one assurance we have that we won. That's the path.
Yeah.
Is giving yourself permission.
Right. Be still, my old self. Yeah. Be still. We're going into a new life. And again, the rebellious voices, some of those are the inner child that we've abandoned when we did things that were unhealthy, and the child was going, but we don't like this. Shush. At least I'm getting married. At least, yes, I'm getting stoned, but I feel better. Mommy needs a drink now and then. And the children are you forego their value. And then they'll either rebel and become rebellious voices or lost children. Depressed children inside. You never cared, you never loved. And now you're trying to get them on board. And you've lost them one extreme, they're rebellious, or the other, they're lost and depressed. And you wonder why you're so split. Someone has to show up and show them, I'm here now. Prove it, they're going to say in different wording, but prove it. Okay? And consistence. The second most damaging thing for children, shy of overt abuse to children, is inconsistent parenting. And we do that to ourselves. Our own inconsistent parenting is the second most abusive thing we could do to children, including our own inner. A last person or two in the back. Yes? Either of you. Do rock, paper, scissors. Right. Find the compass, inner peace, and follow that. Instead of this garbage of, I wish I knew what God wanted me. What do you mean? You do know. But you're so out of touch with the real you, which is here in the heart, that you act like you don't know. And you don't know if you don't know who you are. So you're accurately living your confusion, expressing your confusion. But enough is enough, you can say. Hi. Good to see you.
I appreciated when you said take a moment to congratulate ourselves.
Right. Thanks.
We took those brave and courageous.
That's right. Yeah, he's sharing where we started and the service today, which is the gratitude. I mean it. I'm not like, oh, courageous, good job, good for you. I mean it from soul to soul. Congratulations for every time you were able to, push through people teasing you and ranting on you and ragging you and tempting you to, pull, whatever, people tempting you to do harm to yourself or others. All of those, there has to be no. Not because I'm saying they're bad, it's just no. Those people who wronged you for divorce or wronged you for being gay or straight or whatever it was, enough is enough, man. It's got to stop, okay? Before I forget, we're going to do our love offerings, so please gather your love offerings. Be as generous as you can possibly be. We appreciate that. Online, there's a button you can click. If ever that's in doubt, just email the office and arrange it through them. But take your love offering. Be as generous as you can be. They go in the bags, the purple bags. Those are your standard love offerings for the Sunday. Any extra donations, whether it's a check or cash or coins in the bottom of your purse, you can put those in the basket. Those are extra, and we use those for people of lesser means or special projects and so on. So we appreciate that. All righty, take your love offering to your heart. Together, please. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Thank you. Before we let you go, we'll do our closing prayer. And while they're passing those, which will only take a minute or two, a couple of quick things. Remember, there's crystal bed therapy sessions in our healing room outside, the yurt. So you can do crystal bed sessions. They're pretty dang phenomenal. On social media, be sure to like and share and all those good things that you can do to help us get seen by other people. But I'm not an ambitious person. So if ever you decide to share links to talks, share them to people that you think are sane, okay? Really, use good discernment. You know, don't go and send a link of my stuff to, family members or no. Certain types of groups or people, that it's just going to trigger them. Just please be discerning. There are DVD sets as well as books of mine, and in the bookstore. You can get those. You can order them online. We have a workshop coming up on Sunday, July 30th called The Three Gates of Love, Intimacy, and Passion. It's about deep exploration of the three doorways to love and learning more how to deepen intimacy and experience true sexuality with yourself or others. This workshop will be in person here and on Zoom, but also we're announcing the second book. I wrote a book called An Intro to Sacred Sexuality. There's another one called Sacred Sexuality. It's a book, A Manual for Living Bliss. And that has been, finally, it's been reprinted. It's in a new binding, new information, and so forth. So that would be great if you're interested in relationships. There's the good trifecta. My book on creating fulfilling relationships, An Intro to Sacred Sexuality, or in Tantra and Sacred Sexuality, and the third one's just called Sacred Sexuality. So those three books are great for relationship stuff, questions, and so on. And also today is our psychic fair, the Sedona Monthly Psychic Fair. It takes place at our center. So fantastic. You can do crystal bed sessions during the fair, but there are readers here, the best in the region, and some come from Phoenix and so on. So by all means, hang out, have a session, have a reading. Try to book these in advance because they do book up pretty full. One last thing, and that is we announced a new book of mine, but it's a conference coming up, The Daughters of Heaven. And I love that. There's such a frequency to that, a feeling to that. And I also love, because we have a website, Daughters of Heaven email and a website. There's a Facebook and a website. So there's a Facebook group, and it's really cool to hear people's testimonials. Like, when I was 5, this word came to me, Daughters of Heaven, this phrase. Didn't know what it meant. Or when I was, going through a tough time, people's synchronistic knowings, as well as some literal visions and experiences, but inner knowing about how powerful this is. Most of the people watching a program like this are what I would call light workers. It's a term I made up decades ago, the term light workers. And I made it up because it had to do with people that are anchoring the light of God, right? Then, months ago, Daughters of Heaven came through one of our talks, and it just kind of sent this sound wave, vibe wave through the room, because the Daughters of Heaven are light workers, but they're not just anchoring the light of God, they're being the presence of the Divine Mother. So there's a deeper level of dedication, and it's almost less metaphysical, which is fantastic stuff, and it's more about the presence here. It's a dedication to the Mother, the Holy Spirit, Mother Mary, Jesus, the Christ, God, and so on. So if you're interested, there's a conference coming up. You can see it online, sign up online, or you can join and be in person. We have extraordinary musicians that are part of it, speakers, and it's just going to be a fantastic experience. Even vendors. And if somebody's a vendor, by the way, it's only $100 for the vendor booth. Besides your attendance fee, you only pay $100 for being a vendor. So you get to add that to everything else you're doing at the festival in case you want to join us. Okay? Please stand. And viewers at home, God bless you and thank you for being with us. And when I said thank you and congrats to all the people, clearly I'm talking to you as well. Soak that in. Soak that in. Remember this, see things from a multidimensional place. Learn to see that. Learn to see things holistically instead of linearly. So seeing things multidimensionally doesn't mean you're spaced out. It means you see all the layers involved in a situation. And something that occurs to me when we're here doing this, I think, how funny that some of you who have been here maybe for years still think you're attending a talk on Sunday. If I were sitting there and somebody asked me what I do on Sunday, whether it's virtual or here, this is how my mind would describe it. I'm not telling you to do this, but this is how I see things. I attend this gathering where everything that is God in me and everything that is confused and hurt in me comes out through the person talking. And it's like sitting with a divine counselor who's counseling my stuff, a divine teacher who's teaching, but it isn't Michael. This is our divine self coming through. And then we're changing through the experience. This is not somebody lecturing at you. We're all sharing this together. And that comes not from my power as person, Michael. Power, this comes from surrendering that and the humility to say, of myself, I know nothing. Mother, Holy Spirit of God, show me. And that means any of us can do this in our own way, not just here as parents, as partners, whatever else we do, we can be this kind of a channel. What would you have me do? And experience a very holistic, extraordinary experience. Remember, the light of God surrounds us. We are the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love of God. The power of God protects us. We are the power of God. And the presence of God watches over us. We are the presence of God. We affirm that wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Peace be with you all. Bye-bye.